They lied. Not just once. Not just a little. They told the German public that one of the most complex railway projects in European history would cost as little as €2.5 billion. And they either knew that was false, or they simply never bothered to find out the truth. The real number? Over 11 billion. And still climbing. Stuttgart 21 has become one of the most politically toxic infrastructure projects in modern German history. But here's what nobody's telling you. The real wound isn't the final bill. It's how the project was lowballed from the start to secure approval. The protests. They were both right and wrong. Compare it to London's Crossrail and the entire story flips. At the end, I'll lay out 3 things that must change, because the damage from this doesn't end in Stuttgart. Stuttgart is the capital of Baden-Wurttemberg, one of the wealthiest regions in Europe. It's the engine room of German engineering, home to Porsche, Mercedes-Benz and Bosch. Economically, it punches well above its weight. But for all its wealth, Stuttgart's railway infrastructure had a fundamental problem. The Hauptbahnhof, built in the 1920s and an architectural landmark in its own right, was a dead-end terminal. 16 tracks fanned out from a single throat, and every train that arrived had to reverse back out. In railway terms, this is a capacity killer. You cannot run a modern high-frequency timetable through a bottleneck like that. Stuttgart sits at the crossroads of 2 major European rail axes, the north-south corridor from the Benelux to northern Italy, and the east-west line linking Paris to Vienna and Budapest. It is not a provincial stop, it is a continental junction. Stuttgart 21 is not a simple station renovation. It is the wholesale reimagining of an entire city's relationship with the railway. The plan, a new underground through station, buried 20 metres beneath the city centre, with 8 tracks replacing the old 16, but oriented so trains enter from one side and exit the other, no more reversing. Combined with 57 kilometres of new tunnels and a high-speed line to Ulm, journey times on that corridor drop from 54 minutes to around 28. The land freed up above ground is itself enormous, around 100 hectares of prime city centre real estate, currently occupied by rail yards, becoming available for housing, offices and parkland. Stuttgart city planners saw this as a once-in-a-century urban opportunity. The project was formally agreed in 1995 between the federal government, Deutsche Bahn, the state of Baden-Wurttemberg and the city of Stuttgart. From the start, the €2.6 billion estimate was produced by Deutsche Bahn's own planning teams, never subjected to independent external verification. A higher number might have killed political support before the project got off the ground, so the number stayed low, and nobody in a position of authority pushed back. On paper it was visionary, but in the streets of Stuttgart it felt like a declaration of war. From the beginning, Stuttgart 21 was a political lightning rod. When construction finally began in 2010, it triggered the largest public protest Germany had seen in decades. This wasn't just about a train station. It was a battle over heritage, the environment, and most of all, the truth. Things turned ugly fast. In September 2010, a day known as Black Thursday, police used water cannons and pepper spray against thousands of demonstrators, including students and the elderly. The images shocked the nation. Protesters argued that the old station was a landmark worth saving, but their loudest claim cut deepest. The costs were being systematically underestimated. On that last point, they were right. The Baden-Wurttemberg state government held a referendum in 2011. Voters narrowly backed the project, 58% to 42%. Construction continued, but the bitterness lingered. Every few years brought the same gut punch. Another delay, another revision, another billion tacked onto a number that was never grounded in reality. In 2024, a Stuttgart court ruled that Deutsche Bahn must bear the additional costs alone. The project partners are only liable for their originally agreed share of around €3 billion. Deutsche Bahn is on the hook for the rest. That legal ruling says everything about the broken trust. The outrage was understandable, but much of it was aimed at the wrong target. To understand Stuttgart 21 properly, you need to look at it alongside another project, London's Crossrail, now known as the Elizabeth Line. The parallels are striking. Both projects were conceived in the 1990s. Both required enormous tunnelling work beneath a major European city. Construction on both began around 2010. Both ran over time and over budget. The The public and political reactions, however, could not have been more different, because one project set realistic expectations from the start, and the other did not. Look at this. Same era, same type of project. Now watch what happens to the numbers. Just pause on that for a second. London budgeted £14.8 billion for Crossrail in 2010, a figure that had already been stress-tested, revised, and formally agreed through a government spending review. It ended up costing around £18.8 billion, a 27% overrun. It opened 3.5 years late. By any reasonable measure of mega-project delivery, that is a difficult but manageable outcome. It attracted criticism, yes, but it did not fundamentally undermine public trust in infrastructure investment. Stuttgart 21 was budgeted at €2.6 billion, a figure that was, to put it generously, extraordinarily optimistic for a project of this scale and geological complexity. The tunnels run through anhydrite rock, a material that swells dramatically when it comes into contact with water. That alone should have added hundreds of millions to the baseline estimate. It did not. A 340% cost overrun sounds like catastrophic mismanagement, and in some respects, the execution has been poor. But compare this. If Stuttgart 21 had been priced realistically at, say, €6 or €7 billion from the start, in line with comparable European projects, the cost increase to $11 billion would represent an overrun of perhaps 60 to 70%. Uncomfortable, but not exceptional for a project of this complexity. The key difference is how the projects were presented to the public. Crossrail used a realistic, stress-tested budget from the outset. Stuttgart 21 used an optimistic figure that made approval easier, but left no room for the inevitable surprises of deep urban tunnelling. Germany has a deep cultural aversion to large public expenditure. It is not irrational. It is rooted in historical memory, reinforced by decades of political consensus, and enshrined in law through the constitutional debt brake. Fiscal discipline is treated in Germany almost as a moral virtue, but when applied to infrastructure it becomes self-defeating. Here's what the false economy actually delivered. Instead of an honest debate over a realistic €7 billion project, Germany got a decade of bitter division, turned a necessary infrastructure upgrade into a national punchline, and still ended up paying over $11 billion. It didn't save money, it paid the full price, and added a deep political wound on top. Stuttgart sits at the heart of Europe's rail future. A high-capacity through station will deliver faster journeys, more freight capacity, and stronger economic links for generations. The real question was never whether to build it. It was whether leaders would level with the public about the true cost. They didn't, and that mis-selling turned a necessary project into a decade-long political crisis. So what now? Here are 3 concrete changes we need. 1. Present realistic budgets from day one. Mega projects are multi-decade bets involving geological surprises, regulatory battles, supply chain chaos, and technical integration. A single optimistic number isn't a budget, it's political theatre. Sponsors must show cost ranges, not wishful point estimates designed to sneak approval. When they don't, citizens pay twice, once through taxes when the real bill arrives, and again through eroded trust that poisons support for every future project. 2. Force comparisons to real peers. Context changes everything. An €11 billion underground hub tying a major city into Europe's high-speed spine isn't outrageous. It's normal. Crossrail cost €18.8 billion. The Grand Paris Express exceeds €35 billion. Without these benchmarks, people don't just rage at one project. They decide all big infrastructure is waste, all railways are money pits, and all politicians lie. The next vital project dies quietly, not because it was unworthy, but because no one equipped the public to tell the difference. 3. Invest or fall behind. The alternative to Stuttgart 21 isn't saving billions. It's a dead-end terminal that can't meet tomorrow's demand on one of Europe's critical corridors. Infrastructure doesn't stand still. It advances or it rots. The true cost of decay hides in plain sight. The company that never relocates here because connections lag. The talented young professional who leaves for better linked cities. The freight that shifts to congested roads instead of rail. These losses never make headlines. They accumulate in silence until a once thriving region wonders why it has quietly slipped behind. Stuttgart 21 will open, probably in 2027, maybe later. And when it does, something quietly extraordinary will happen. Trains will glide smoothly through a modern underground hub beneath one of Europe's great cities, connecting a continent exactly as envisioned 30 years ago. No ceremony will erase the broken promises or the trust that was shattered. No ribbon will repay the political damage or the years lost in numbers that were never grounded in truth. But the steel and tunnels will endure. 100 years from now, passengers will board in Stuttgart and reach Ulm in under 30 minutes, without a second thought about reversing trains or old bottlenecks. They will simply travel, faster, quieter, more connected, and the overruns will be ancient history. My view is straightforward. Stuttgart 21 was the right project, built for the right reasons, and catastrophically missold to the people footing the bill. The real tragedy isn't the ballooned bill, it's that honest pricing and leadership could have turned this into a showcase of European ambition. Instead, it became a cautionary tale of political failure. Infrastructure isn't a luxury, it's the skeleton that holds an economy upright, a society that flinches from building, that confuses short-term frugality with wisdom, is quietly mortgaging its children's future. So here's the question I want you to carry forward. Next time a major project is announced in your city with suspiciously low numbers, will you demand independent cost verification before a single euro is committed? Think about that. If this video made you see construction sites differently, if it made you question what else is being quietly lowballed and oversold, then this channel is for you. We unpack architecture, design, and infrastructure through the hard decisions that shape our cities, economies, and lives. The politics hidden inside the concrete. Hit subscribe. There's a lot more worth knowing.